All right, so we're back at it again tonight, and we're going to Genesis chapter number 39. And since we read it Sunday, I'm only going to read a couple key verses here tonight, and then I'll dive deeper in a couple of points and go from there. You know what? Here's what I want to start with, actually. I want to start with the definition of the word sin, because there may be some ambiguity about what that means. All right. Some people know what sin is. You know, sin is funny because you don't have to know what it is to do it. You can just be doing it. You don't have to know the definition to be doing it. But I look so short on here. There we go. I look a little taller now. So, anybody remember that song? I wish I was a little bit taller. I know some of you don't know about that. Anyways, sin simply means to miss the mark. It means to miss the mark. It does not mean to disappoint God. It does not mean to make God angry. It does not mean that God is getting revenge on you. When you look at the word sin in the Bible, it is communicating that there was a mark or an expectation that God had designed for his people, and they did not adhere to that. And as a result of that, they missed the mark. Now, just because it means to miss the mark doesn't mean it's not a big deal, because Jesus died for the sins of the world. And that's why we know it's important, because if it wasn't important, it wouldn't have taken Jesus or cost Jesus his whole life in order to do it. Okay, so we're going to get into these points again, like we mentioned Sunday. And if anybody has any questions, all right, we're going to, you can raise your hand and we'll go there. I'm going to try to get a little bit more practical tonight than I was yesterday. Not yesterday, Sunday. Genesis chapter number 39. We know Joseph was sold into slavery, and he's in Potiphar's house, who was the officer of Pharaoh. Imagine like the chief of police for Pharaoh or something similar to that. And he's in that role, and everything he has in his life is a blessing. I'm going to start with verse number 2. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hands. I'm going to skip down to verse number 6. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome and form in appearance, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife, casting long her eyes on Joseph, and said to him, "Lie with me." But Joseph refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he committed all that he has into my hand. There is none greater than me in this house than I, nor has he kept anything back from me but you, because you are his wife. How can I do this evil thing against God?" So our first point in terms of what we're going to talk about tonight is refuse immediately. Let me ask you this. Okay, and this is for anybody to answer. You can answer in the chat, or no, I'll hold that question for a little bit. But I'll say this. In terms of refusal immediately, what that helps us to understand, or what we have to be aware of when we're making this decision, when we're making this choice to refuse immediately, is we have to have foresight. Matter of fact, we have to have vision. Okay, not sight. We have to have vision. The difference is sight is a function of the eyes. Okay, vision is something that cannot immediately be seen. Anybody who has eyes, okay, a retina and all the other compartments of this eye is in here. But vision allows you to see beyond what the eyes can see. And vision is a plan for the future that you have. But you also, when you have vision, you can see what's coming. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Before the enemy attacks your body or your family or your spiritual health, you have dreams, you have visions, right? You have glimpses of this, right? While you sleep. Some have them while they're awake. And this is it. Joseph was able to refuse because he understood, I can't give an inch, because some people, you give an inch and they take a mile. So he said, I'm going to refuse immediately. And when we go back and look at the story of Joseph and also Samson, what we notice there is this refusal doesn't mean that it's maybe not something I desire, right? Let me break this down a little further, right? She was offering to lie with Joseph, right? Joseph was a handsome man. He was a young man, okay? Of course he desired to get down with the get down, no question. But here's the thing about it. He said, I would rather do it God's way and honor God than my own way. I met somebody, or I used to go to church with some folks. And I remember one time in service, they were like, it's such a struggle. I pray that God would take away this desire of mine. I don't want to look at men this way. I don't want to desire. It was a woman. I don't want to look at men this way. I don't want this high sex drive that I have. And the person was like, pause a second. Watch your mouth. Don't ask God to take away what he's given you. Just ask that you can manage it in the right confines of covenant marriage. You don't want to be praying, Lord, please take away my sex drive. No, that's a blessing from heaven, okay? You just want to have that blessing within the confines of marriage, okay? You just want to do it the way that God intends, okay? I'm going to go to this slide early because I want to get some feedback on it. I'm gonna go all the way to this last slide because I ran across this quote this week and I'd love to hear what people have to say about it. If you want to mute and say something about it, I'd love to hear it. If not, no pressure to do that either. But I'd love to hear some feedback on this. This is by C.S. Lewis, who is a theologian. It says, the monstrosity of sexual intercourse outside of marriage is that those who indulge in it are trying to isolate one kind of union, sexual union, from the other kinds of union which were intended to go along with it and make the total union. Okay? Anybody have any thoughts or observations on that comment? Disagree, agree, understand, don't understand, make sense, doesn't make sense? This is not the Bible we're going back and forth with here. This is C.S. Lewis, who is a writer. You probably have seen some of his material because he wrote some things. Anybody have any initial thoughts? That's a quote that I found, and I was like, oh, I want to bring this into Bible study to see if anybody has any thoughts about this. Anybody agree, disagree, thoughts, ideas, comments? If so, you can unmute and share. I'll read it one more time. Oh, go ahead, Sarah. Whatever you're saying, I know is really good, but you're on.
It's too late. I already said it. No, I'm just kidding. So it sounds, and I wasn't in on Sunday. I was, missed the sermon, but I did watch it on replay, but anyway, it sounds to me like what they're saying is they're pulling the fun part out of union, the full union. They're pulling the fun part out and just trying to make it its own thing.
Gotcha.
So they're just taking the fun part and not all the work of the union in this statement. That's kind of the way I read it, is like, instead of doing all the work and the hard part of that comes from the union, let's just take the fun part out and isolate that and do that part of it.
Gotcha.
And not do all the rest of it.
You're saying let's get the paycheck on the 15th
without doing the work.
Okay. Am I getting you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Why buy them? What is it? Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free?
There you go.
My mom told me that when I was way too young to hear that. I was like, what?
Excellent. You're like, I'm not even drinking milk anymore, Mom. You just ruined it all for me. I'm lactose intolerant by choice now. Anybody else? What other observations? Anybody agree, disagree? Anybody see anything from this quote that Sarah didn't share? Anybody? Hold on, something's in the comments here that somebody wants to add. Simone says, yes, I agree. Anybody else? Thoughts? Even when you read this initially, what comes to mind? I can see the gears moving in some.
I agree with what Sarah said. I would say the word monstrosity is sticking out to me.
Okay.
The most. Elaborate, please.
You're asking me to elaborate, or are you saying you're going to elaborate?
You elaborate.
Oh, well,
monstrosity to me seems like it's a monster. It's the worst thing ever. It's a terrible idea.
Why do you think he would call it that? If that is indeed what monstrosity means, which you're probably right. You're a college-educated young woman. This is my oldest daughter, everybody, Kaylin. Why do you think he would call it such a thing?
Because it is such a thing. I don't know. It's the devil. It's the monster.
There we go. There we go.
Hard to tackle once. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Hard to tackle. Anybody else? What other observations? Thank you for that, Kay. Simone said, I agree. Sarah says it causes issues. Anybody else? Observations, first thoughts when you read this? Kevin says monstrosity is an outrageous or offensive act. Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead.
I have a lot of kids in the back, but I was gonna say, yo, the funniest thing that I can think of is you want to get an expensive purse, but you go for the bootleg. You want something that looks pricey, that looks like the real thing, but you're settling for the bootleg. And that's generally what you're getting. You'll get somewhat of the look, but you won't get the value out of it. If you went to go resell that, anybody who has a real authentic Gucci purse or anything Louis Vuitton, they know if you go to resell it, the value doesn't drop to zero, or the value is never just zero. Now it may drop because of how the wear and tear, but more than likely it holds its value. And the problem with having something that's a fake, there is no value in it. If you got a fake Rolex watch, the only thing you'll get is hey, that looks nice, but you'll never get value out of it. So excellent. You'll get all of the surface stuff, but no value.
That's good. Good observation. Y'all are kicking butt here. Go ahead, Foster. I saw you unmute.
I didn't unmute, but
oh, I thought I saw you on mute there. Okay, my mind's playing tricks.
No, but it's a good quote. I mean, I actually think monstrosity is a pretty apt term, because sexual relationships are such a big thing. Like when I think of monstrosity, like you know, I think Kevin must have gone to typed it into Google or something, because I did the same thing. And so, he saw the second part, but even the first part, it refers to like a giant building. It's just huge, right? And could be something that's offensive, a building that nobody likes. But I think of like just a giant building, and sexual relationships in the right context, they're huge and wonderful. In the wrong context, they're huge and absolutely terrible.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to read what Esther said, then I'll move on to my next slide. Matter of fact, somebody get James chapter 1, verses 14 through 17. Prepare to read that. Anybody. Matter of fact, everybody. And then somebody just unmute and read it in a second. I'm going to read what Esther said. Again, we're going next to James chapter 1, verses 14 through 17. Esther said, I agree. Satisfy the need without the work that comes with being in a relationship. Ooh, I got a really good quote on that too from this book about premarital sex in America that I found fascinating this week. Okay, so let's go to James chapter number 1 and starting with verse number 14. Who's going to be the brave soul for us tonight that's going to read that? It can be in any version, any translation. James chapter 1, starting with verse number 14. Okay. Whatever version you have, you can unmute and read it for us. Whomever.
How far do you want me to go?
Start at 12, Sarah, if you'd be kind enough. To 17. 12 to 17. I'm going to interrupt you, but start at 12.
Oh, start at 12? Okay.
Yes.
This is NIV.
Yes.
Blessed is the one, or blessed, I don't know. is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him.
Pause. Were you tempted this week? Not you, Sarah, but all of us.
I was like,
like, were you tempted?
Usher was on, and I had all these feelings. And I'm just kidding.
Right. Were you tempted? I was gonna roll in the Bible study. I got a special outfit I'm gonna wear Sunday, so make sure y'all there. You don't want to miss it. Anyways, that's all I'll say about that. But Kayla's like, I'm not coming to church Sunday. I don't even want to see Pastor Clown like that. I refuse. Notice what the Bible is saying, okay? I am going to, T. I will, okay? So he says, when you endure temptation, you're blessed. Watch me. He's communicating. Now, James, anybody know who James's brother was? The author of this book, James. Anybody know what his brother is? Who his brother is? He's kind of an important guy.
It's Jesus.
There we go. Jesus. There we go. So James's brother was Jesus. So imagine them sharing a bedroom in Galilee, bunk beds in Galilee. Okay. A lot of this, I have an older brother. Matter of fact, I have two of them. And I know lots of the things I say I learned from them. The first time I give them credit, the second time I say it was me. So lots of this insight that he learned, I'm sure it was from Jesus. So he says, blessed is the man who endures temptation. So when you endure being tested, when you endure a trial, you are being blessed. I know you don't see it that way. You be like, why is this happening to me? Why? What did I do? But God is letting you know that what seems like a burden in this moment is actually a blessing. And the blessing comes when you endure the temptation, not when you give up, but when you endure it and you say, I'm going to believe that God will get me through this. Okay, keep on going, Sarah, if you'd be so kind.
When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone.
Thank you. So here's what God does, and we've talked about this before. God will test you. Because testing is showing the progress you've made. Tempting is trying to get you to go backward. Okay, a test, a driver's test, a ACT test. I got to take a license test to become a clinical mental health counselor. All kind of, whatever kind of test you can think. Okay, a test is to show you what already exists, right? If you take a pregnancy test, it's because you think you're pregnant, okay? By the way, don't get those from Dollar Tree. Another story for another day. Anyways, a test is to show you what already is there. Temptation is to draw you away. So God says, in the moment you feel like you're being tempted by me, but I'm not tempting you. I'm testing you so you can know that you're more spiritually strong than you were. So you can know you have more peace in your life than you had then. So you can know that their value of you has not changed, but your value of you have changed. The test comes to show you who you are. Go ahead, Sarah.
But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed.
Say it again. Say that one again.
But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed.
Okay, check it. This is important because he's giving us a roadmap to temptation, or he's letting us know the game plan or the blueprint of sin. He's letting us know the ETA or the destination. What was that app called that everybody used to, before there was Waze and before there was maps? What was that thing called that you put in your car? The brand name of the GPS. There was a popular one that everybody had. I can't remember.
Wasn't it the actual device?
Garmin.
Garmin. There we go. Come on. See, somebody still got one in their car right now. Okay. Listen, a Garmin. Garmin was one. Okay. A Tom. Q got one in his car right now. Oh, jeez. he said, listen, I'm holding tight to my Garmin. Okay, I paid good money for my Garmin. I'm holding on to that till, listen, these phones aren't reliable. Okay, so if y'all ever is late, if Q's ever late, he probably with the map from 20 2010. Okay, he's not with the updated map because Garmin's be outdated sometimes. But anyways, he's giving us the roadmap, and he's saying the way you get on the path first is you are. I loved the version that Sarah's reading from. You're dragged away. You're pulled away. It's saying it's trying to lure you away from where you are to a place you don't want to go, because you don't ever you ever heard somebody being dragged to the Mall of America who likes to shop? You ever heard of somebody being dragged to Tiffany's to get a bracelet? You ever heard somebody being dragged to the Packers game if they're a Packers fan? Okay, no. You're only dragged to a place where you don't willingly want to go. So he's saying that he's not saying the devil is dragging you. He's saying your sinful nature, your sin desire is dragging you. We talked about this because Paul was talking about it. Go ahead, Sarah, next verse.
Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin.
Pause. So this desire drags you, and your desire procreates with sin. Your desire engages and gets intimate with your sin. When desire has conception, right? We all know what that is. Okay. Then what we got next, Sarah?
And sin, when it is fully grown, gives birth to death.
Whoa, wait a sec. Then the desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin. So my desire produces, when I allow it to fester, when I allow it to grow, when I feed it, when I feed the things that I know dishonor God, the thoughts I know dishonor God, the relationships I know dishonor God, the time eating habits that I know dishonor God, it brings forth a baby. And I know we're like, oh, babies are blessings. That's the good news. But this ain't no regular baby. This is a sin-produced baby. And it says, when it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, this is the destination, death. But what does death start with? Enticing. The enemy, I said it Sunday, he'll show you the value. I mean, he'll show you the item, but he'll hide the price tag. You have to know that my habits, my words, my desires, my thoughts that don't honor God, don't be like, oh no, it's natural, it's sin. Yeah, it's sin. And if we wallow in it, and if we make it a lifestyle, and if we don't fight against it, it's going to bring forth death. And none of us want that to be the case. So we have to cleave to God. This is why this refuse immediately is so important, because the enemy's not playing around. Okay, he's playing for keeps. Okay, I think I made this point excellent enough here. Anybody have any questions or comments? I heard PG scream upstairs, so I don't know if I missed something or if I was talking good. I don't know, but I feel like you might want to say something. You want to pop in here?
Well, what was very eye-opening is that it doesn't take 9 months for you to procreate with sin. It don't take that long for it to happen. It can happen in days, it can happen in weeks, it can happen in months. It doesn't have to take a long period of time for you to birth sin. And it all starts with a thought.
Yep.
It all starts with a thought. The conversation that the serpent had with it was a conversation, then it was a thought, and then from that conversation and that thought, she procreated with it, with the disobedience, and boom, there went death, spiritual death.
That's right. Listen, this resistance is about, if you're taking notes, write this down. This resistance is about learning how to act and react like Jesus. When the devil came to Jesus on the mountain, he beat Satan by God's word by refusing. Okay? So that's what this means. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just want to clarify. I know that I just want to clarify when it says gives birth to death. Do they really mean death? Or are they saying like death of your soul or death of your, you know what I mean? Like, what does the death really mean? Like you're going to die. You know what I mean? Like, what does that really mean?
It's saying a couple of things. The Bible's very clear that the wages of sin is death. In other words, when you sin, you earn death. When we sin, we earn death. But what the Bible is saying here is multiple things. The first thing it's saying is a life full of sin without repentance is going to lead to spiritual death. People call that hell, other people call it Guyana, which whatever you call it means a separation eternally from God. Okay, that's what it means. A separation eternally from God. It also means that nothing worth having is going to come out of it. It's not going to be flourishing. It's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be cultivating. It's not going to be thriving at the end of it. But by the time many of us get to the end of it, we haven't seen what it is going to produce. But he's given us wisdom and insight to say, I'm telling you, before you get to the end of it, it's going to be death. Trust me as I say this. Okay, so he's talking about a sin makes an eternal separation from God, which is spiritual death. But he's also saying it's not going to produce any life, any blessing, any flourishing in your life. If we go down to verse number 16, it says, don't be deceived. Why is he telling us this? Don't be deceived, my beloved brethren. He's saying, I'm telling you this because I want you to know the truth. And here's the antithesis or the opposite of what he's saying. Go ahead, Sarah. Can you read verse 17 for us? And then we'll be done with this.
Yep. 17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows.
Ooh, come on. He's saying, you want something that you can hold on to? Hell doesn't produce things that you can hold on to. This world doesn't produce things that you can hold on. He's saying, oh, you want a gift. You want something desirable. You want a spouse that will honor God. You want a family that will honor God. You want purity in your sexuality. That comes from heaven because every good and perfect gift comes from God. You don't have to hustle to get good and perfect gifts. They come from God. You don't have to lie to get it. You don't have to sleep with somebody to get it. You don't have to backstab. They come from God. Amen?
Amen.
Thank you for that, Sarah. So let's go to the next slide here. Y'all remember this from Sunday. Looking at leads to longing for. The next one is resist repeatedly. Okay. And we see this here. I got to go back to Genesis because I was in James. Man, I'm going to move real quickly here. We see this here in verse number, I believe it's verse number 10. Bam. Yep. So it was that she spoke to Joseph day by day. Oh, y'all, are y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this?
What's the chapter?
Genesis chapter number 39. We're in verse number 10. Y'all, I didn't get to it Sunday. The Bible has these people who study time periods, and their time periods are far better than mine. And one of my most trusted time period chronological theologians, which connects with time, gave a time period for how long this possibly could have been going on. So I read day after day. So I thought, oh, okay, a couple of days. Then I said, oh, well, day after day could mean a couple of weeks. Oh, day after day may mean a couple of months. Anybody want to guess how long day after day this chronological theologian came up with the time period of how long this lasted in the life of Joseph? You can unmute or you can say it in the chat, however you want to do. Anybody want to just take a guess? Kevin said 5 years. Anybody else? Esther said 10 years, a decade. Anybody else? Gina said 10. Ashante said 3. Okay. 8 years, Sarah said. Okay. Years. Okay. Kayla just said years. A long time, right? Listen here. This chronological theologian said that this more than likely, because this lasted basically as soon as things begin to take off in Joseph's life at the house, 11 years. 11 years. I know you like, after 11 days, I'm done. Okay. Listen here. This brother had a determination to honor God with his mind, with his body, with his thoughts. And he withstood this temptation for 11 years. Day after day, he did not. Look at what he did in verse number 10. He did not heed her, to lie with her, or to be with her. Wait a second. He said, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to you when you try to get me to lie down with you. And I'm not even going to be. Some things are so serious that you have to put parameters around to say, I'm not even going to be alone with this. I'm going to set parameters on my phone. So I'm not even getting messages after 8 o'clock unless you got the same name as me. Okay, certain places I'm just not gonna go. Somebody was telling me last week about stipulations that they've created within their marriage to protect their marriage, saying, "Hey, we have rules that this." Now, what they have as a parameter is not a sin, but they say to keep sin from happening or any fragrance of it, we put these parameters in place. Okay, and that's what he's saying. He's saying I wouldn't even be in the same room with her. I'm making a distinction to let, because why was he doing this? Because he said, I don't even want you to think I'm interested. I don't even want you to be confused and think that maybe I'm flirting with it. And no. I'm putting a partition between you and me. Okay. He said, I am not even playing with you. I want you to understand. And he was able to do that because even though the Holy Ghost had not been revealed, even though the Holy Spirit had not been poured out yet, he had a desire to please God with his whole heart, whole mind, and whole spirit. And he was not focused on the temptation. He was focused on what we said in James chapter number 1, verse number 17. Every good and perfect gift cometh from above. In other words, he says, if I wait on God, God's going to give me something better than this. And he had to believe that because he knew God. And sometimes our worst enemy is that we forget what God has done and we forget how God has been faithful before. Because if we forget how God has been faithful before, we'll easily fall into deception. Somebody get this for me and then let's read it. Psalm chapter 119. Psalm has a bunch of chapters in it. Psalm chapter 119, starting with verse number 9. And we're going to read all the way down to verse number 11. Psalm chapter number 119, starting with verse number 9, and we're reading all the way down to verse number 11. Let me tell you, like I said Sunday, this is not only true for sexual sin. This is true for when you want to gossip. This is true for when you want to lie. This is true for when you want to connect with people that you know have no good for you. It don't even got to be sexual in nature. It's sin of all types. We're in Psalm chapter 119, verse number 9, 10, and 11. Who's going to read that for us tonight?
I've got it.
Thank you.
How can a young man keep his way pure? By guarding it according to your word. With my whole heart I seek you. Let me not wander from your commandments. I have stored up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Blessed are you, O Lord. Teach me your statutes. With my lips I declare all the rules of your mouth. In the way of your testimonies I delight, as much as in all riches.
Listen, do you know what the psalmist is saying to us here? He's saying, it's not that I don't find desires, okay, whether they be sexual or non-sexual. He's saying, it's not that I don't find these things delightful. He's saying, I found something that is more delightful. And that's you. And somebody is on this call right now and you're like, man, I wish we was talking about something different because I don't want to hear this. I'm going to tell you why. Because we have made sex a god. And we have made our sexuality a god. And we have made us to believe if my flesh wants it, I have to do it. No. You're not a slave to your flesh. God is your master. And until you and I begin to understand how magnificent God is and how amazing God is and how he has poured out his love upon us radically. And he's already done for us more than anybody else will ever do. He literally, the Bible says he was rich and he became poor so we could become rich. He gave up his heavenly riches so we could have access to the heavenly realm and life everlasting. All of these things. When you don't delight in God, it's because you don't understand what God has done. James chapter 4, verse number 8 says this: draw nigh to God and God draws nigh to you. Let me help you, because somebody's like, I don't feel close to God right now. I don't. I know. You like, I don't feel close to God right now. I don't feel God is close to me. I'm going to pass to you for 30 seconds here. Guess who moved? If you don't feel close to God, guess who moved? You did. God has already made up his mind about you. The verse Sarah read in James chapter 1, it was saying he's not going to change his mind in verse number 18 or what have you. God doesn't change. He's not a flip-flopper. He's consistent, and he knows what we have to fall in love with Jesus and who he is and what he's done, and understand that his plans are better than our plans. He wants us to prosper. Let me help you with this, and then we're going to move to the last point. The Bible says that God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You know what Eden means? This is the first place that God created for man and woman. Pleasure. God wants you to have pleasure. He desires for you to enjoy the things that he has created, but he wants you to enjoy them the way that is actually best for you. But some of us are like Adam and Eve. He said, hey, y'all got this whole thousands probably of acres. Y'all can enjoy as much of it as you want. This one thing don't touch. And they did exactly what we do. Why can't I touch that? Like, what is it about this you don't want me to have? And they focused on what he said no to instead of what he said yes to. And some of us do that same thing. We say, God, well, why? I can get him money and I can show up to church, but I got to get it in every now and then. And God's like, don't you see what your getting in has done? It's blinded your judgment. It's made you give time to busters and scrubs. We used to call them bust downs back in the day. Okay. He's saying, understand what your time is done. I got to move, y'all, because we about to do breakouts here. He says, how can I do this wicked thing and sin against God? Illegitimate relationships contaminate legitimate intimacy. Illegitimate relationships are relationships that waste your time or take your time away from relationships that are more valuable. So if I am at home with my children when I come home from work, and I sit on the couch next to my children for 3 hours and are on Facebook for 3 hours, and then I don't get off the phone until it's time for me to put my kids to bed, guess what? I have an illegitimate relationship with Facebook. And it's disconnecting the intimacy with my children. If day after day I'm coming home and I'm going straight to video games, not engaging with my kids, I have an illegitimate relationship with video games. Okay, if I'm saying, oh man, you know what? I want to read. None of these things are bad in them themselves. If I say, you know what, I got reading to do, and every day, all day, I'm just coming home and I'm reading, leave me alone, leave that alone, I'm busy. I've created an illegitimate relationship with reading because it has contaminated the intimacy that I'm supposed to have with my wife, my children, and everybody that's connected to me. It doesn't have to be bad for it to be illegitimate.
Say that again.
It doesn't have to be bad for it to be illegitimate. It can just be taking you away. It can be a good thing that's taking you away from the best thing.
So we got to get off this Bible study because I need some attention.
Okay.
Glory.
All right, y'all. Well, may the Lord watch between thee and all right. Well, Kevin, you're in charge. Okay. No, let me
I won't do that to you guys. I love you guys.
Listen, it is Valentine's Day Eve, okay? Speak, Lord, okay? You all right? Speak, Lord. So anyways, but what's the point? What's the point you're making, Gina? For real. I know you're joking, but what's the point you making?
So in all seriousness, I share my husband with many things. And so by the time he gets home, he's beat. Same with me. By the time he gets home, I'm beat. I'm tired, right? So you have to find time, make time to be intimate. And you do not want to get caught up in strolling on social media. You do not, like, you have to purposely say, if I can make time for work, if I can make time for all these people that are calling me and all this other stuff, I need to make sure that I'm making time for my spouse and or my children, like he said. If you don't have a spouse and you have kids, you do have to make time for your kids. And I'm going to be apologizing to Caitlin so much because in my 20s, I was a different kind of person. I was so focused on me and everything else. Caitlin, I was present. I was there, but I was not in her life as much as I could have been. And
Thank you
now
so
that I
much.
look,
Greatly appreciate your apology. I'm joking.
and I loved her, right? But sometimes you got to stop because none of us, even if we had the book to be perfect, we still wouldn't be perfect because we're not perfect, right? So the more we grow into ourselves in the years of relationship, you go back and be like, man, I'm sorry because I wasn't present. I missed it, right? So yeah, even doing this right now, finding time to make sure that you're not just present, but you are being what's the word I want to call it?
Engaging.
There it is. That's it. You could be in the same house and not engaging, and it's not a happy home. So you have to make sure that you are being intentional on engaging in the relationships that you have.
Hey, listen.
Amen.
Amen. You need me to end this now, or what you saying?
No, we can wait.
All
I
right.
gotta put on some music to give me hype. Okay.
All right. No Maverick City tonight. Listen, anyways, so but here's what it comes down to. If you have children, God gave them to you. If you've got a spouse, God gave it to you. Guess what? You may be saying, I don't got no kids, I don't got no spouse. Your time with God. That's right. Get the blanket. Get the blanket. That's right. Listen, whether you have those things or not, guess what? That's true for our kids. That's true for our spouse. That's true for your time with God. Listen, I'm glad you come to church. Keep coming to church. I'm glad
you say something else. Alina,
go ahead.
It's
time. It's time. What?
Hold on. I need you to go into the room.
Let me say this while you going into the room. God, you need your time with God, but guess what? I'm glad you're on Bible study and on Sunday. You also need your personal time with God, because when I preach and I teach and PG teaches and PG preaches, yeah, it's good and it's helpful, but there's something God wants to say to you through his word. You don't have to wait for us. It's 24/7 access. Go ahead, girl, ma'am.
Well, what I was going to say too, when we're talking about illegitimate relationships, contaminated legitimate intimacy, is to be careful when you're single, engaging in self-pleasure. Because once you do get somebody, that can mess up the intimacy in the relationship that you have with your mate. So the enemy's very slick and he's very deceiving. He's very cunning, right? And as we know, he is not selfish. He's all about making sure that we're able to have a spirit of gratitude, a spirit of servitude, right? So it's not a selfish. God does not have a selfish spirit. And when we start to engage in selfish activity, that can corrupt the relationship when you become in union with someone.
Listen, that's excellent. That leads directly to this last point that I got here. I'm not going to get to run quickly because I got to run after this. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't run anyway, so you understand. So there's a book called Premature Sex in the United States, and it's by these two guys that you can see on here. One of them is a doctor of sociology, and what these stats are saying is this is how pornography and the idea of self-pleasure, because that's the underlining thing under pornography, that's the underbelly of it, self-pleasure, is not contaminating just husband and wives relationships. It's permeating the world. I didn't get to add the third one, but the third point that this book stated is that pornography has affected how society, not only the sex industry, but society tells women to dress, what's acceptable, what's sexy, what's comfortable, all this shit. This is how pornography has contaminated society. So let me read these to you. People who use pornography have a crushing, unrealistic expectation regarding physical appearance and sexual performance. This is what pornography and lust does to our society. It makes people think, first of all, wait a second. Wait a second. You don't look perfect all the time? You don't wake up with makeup on? Anybody remember A Different World? When Whitley and Dwayne, with Dwayne, some of y'all don't know nothing about this. They got married. She would get up early and make up her face and all that jazz, right? And then go back to sleep, and wake up. Oh, girl, you look good. Why don't you back that thing up? Listen, so this lust-filled, pornography-filled society is making people think that a disagreement in a relationship is not normal, or that perfection is the standard, because they're watching videos that say perfection is the standard. Oh yeah, and the plumber came to my house, and they fixed more than that pipe. You know what I'm saying? Like it's making forgive me for my vividness tonight, but I'm trying to communicate that it has poisoned our culture, not just the church. Boys, don't be laughing, Gina. It's poisoning the culture to make people
head down. Caleb was like, "Oh Lord,
listen,
Lord, no."
It makes people think that women and men are always supposed to have it together. Always, hair always got to be done, fresh fade all the time. Always have to look fake. That's really the best thing, to keep up a facade that nobody can keep up. And this ideology in terms of sexual performance that everybody's the Energizer Bunny. This thing has to last for hours. And listen, that's I got one word for you: editing. Okay, but the enemy wants us to think that these ideologies are real, and God says, flee, get away from this, because it's gonna poison your kids. It's going to poison your conversations. It's going to poison your expectations. Let me read this last one because we got to move. A significant portion of males and females, I don't know why I put that on there, who have viewed porn have an experience of a finished tolerance for difficulties in real relationships. And what does this do? This shrinks the marriage pool for women and men, because you think, oh, we're not ever supposed to disagree. They don't ever do that on the movies. You're not ever supposed to say, I don't think so, or no, or let me think about. No. The prophet Lauryn Hill said, fantasy is what people want, but reality is what they need. And these movies and these shows and the entertainment and the sexual entertainment industry is making us think. That's right. Sarah said it right. People are trying to recreate this stuff at home, thinking that, oh yeah, that's how it works. No. That's not how it works. This is why God is saying, flee youthful lust. Leave situations where the love is not mature in the marriage. Get away from it, because society is making you pay a price that is not worth it.
And let's be honest, sex sells.
Yes. A false perception of it. Yes.
You have to guard your eyes, because there's so many shows now today that it's right there in everything you see, right? I'm gonna be done, but I used to love Grey's Anatomy. Do you hear me? Love. Thursday I woke up, I don't care if it was the worst day of the week, baby, I was Grace, Meredith, and Dr. That was foolishness. That was adultery. And that's what I was feeding myself. A relationship about adultery. Horrible, right? So yeah, when we watch these shows on TV, there's not a lot of wholesome relationships out here. Most of them have something to do with some kind of cheating, adultery, all this kind of stuff, right? So we got to be very, 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 very mindful of what we're feeding ourselves.
That's right. And since you went there, Gina, PG, let me just go there. And some of y'all on here, okay, y'all done went back and watched the Super Bowl halftime show 3 times since Sunday. We're going to have a special prayer. Like, y'all done watched it on replay and slowed it down and reversed it. Flip that thing down, flip it and reverse it, okay? You said, I got to watch it more than once, okay? All right? Sarah looked like she watching it on the other screen right now, eating her popcorn and everything. Okay. No, but what I'm saying is we have to be careful because like PG is saying, you're indulging in something that's called entertainment, but it's really pushing the world's agenda. It's really pushing you to be desensitized against what dishonors God. Okay. And I have to ask myself when I'm enjoying my entertainment, do I understand the significance in this? And am I desensitizing myself to this? Okay. All right. Tori talking about, I just wanted to see how he got down on them skates like that, studying, if you will. Yeah. But we have to be careful because this world is not designed to draw us closer to God. It's designed to draw us further away from God. And if we're not aware of that, we're going to be in a world of trouble. Okay. We only got a few minutes to break up in our breakout rooms here, but I pray that this was helpful.
So what do you say before we break out to breakout rooms? What do you say about the scriptures in the Old Testament that talk about polygamy?
What do I say about the scriptures in the Old Testament?
Like what if somebody try to be like, well, listen, they have more than one wife. It's in the Bible, so why not? Why can't we do it?
Can you send Alina to the other room to get my charger? Because this phone's about to die. It's connected to my, it's in my backpack. Bring my gray backpack down here. Ask her to do that, please. I would say this. I'll say there's many things I could say about it, but the simplest thing I'll say about it is this. Just because the Bible describes it does not mean the Bible prescribes it or prescribes it, okay? I'll give you another example here. Here we go. Here's our questions for tonight. Is this. Read the Bible. What do I say all the time? We just can't read the Bible. We have to do what? We have to read the Bible. Because every time, watch me, every time you see polygamy in the scripture, every time, whether it's multiple men or whether it's multiple women, whether it's Solomon, whether it's Abraham, yes, they have more than one wife. Yes, they have more than one spouse. But it never works out. You'll never see, thank you, my dear. I appreciate you so much. You'll never see a man who has multiple wives. You'll never see that working out for their good and for God's glory. It never, even read it. Look at every single one of them. Solomon, he had more wives than M&Ms in a king size M&M bar, okay? And what the Bible is communicating to us here is, yes, it seems like it's a good idea, but it doesn't work because it's not the covenant that God created. Abraham, he got his concubine pregnant. It was all good until his wife said, okay, we got a problem here. One of these, something's got to go. Because God says, you're trying to make your humanity the same as my divinity. Except you just say, it's my life, it's my body, it's my choice, it's my option, I can do, but God said it's not going to work, no matter how you try it. So if you meet a man who's like, well, polygamy's in the Bible, it must be okay. Be like, so is murder. So say another word and you're going to be one of them.
I was going to add something too, and when Nina brought up about the Old Testament,
Please.
Just Leviticus, it talks so much about, the different things that we shouldn't do, with our bodies and certain things, the different laws of Leviticus. But if you really read it, the things that it tells you not to do, it benefits your health, your overall health. People don't, they think the Bible, we can't do nothing, but it all is for your good. There's some things about, sexually, it talks about bestiality, all of these things. And, if you follow God's law, if you don't follow God's law, I should say, then that's where sexually transmitted diseases come from. All those other things, they come from not following God's law, the diseases and the different things that are from sin,
No, that's excellent. Yep. And here's what we have to understand. God allows these things because he wants to show us it's not going to work. You ever have your kid try to tell you something that ain't true? No, it's true. It's true. It's true. No, it's true. And you'd be like, okay, go ahead, try it. You don't believe fat meat is greasy. So go ahead, you try it. and then you have to allow them to learn from their own mistakes. Okay, we're right up against it here. We're gonna come back at 8:15. And if you got to go before that, I completely understand, but we're right up against it. So Shantae is going to be in one room, and Kayla's going to be leading the other room. These are the three questions. Shantae and Kayla and anybody else, please screenshot this so you all can see it, and we can be good to go from there. Let me stop the thing from playing. Nope, I don't want to pause the share. I want to pause the video. Stop recording.